and welcome back to Nourished Sundays. I'm your host Joanna, certified in holistic nutrition from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. This series is all about healthy eating. And I know this sounds like a huge topic and it can be very overwhelming, very stressful for many of us because of all the information we get on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of time that information is conflicting with itself. So through this series, I'm hoping to make things a little bit easier for you, giving you tangible, easily applicable tips that you can use one day at a time to hopefully improve your health, your life, and the health of your family. Today's topic is fats. Fats are so important for us, and for many years it's been a topic that has been taboo and something that we've tried to get away from. So, fats have been demonized, deemed as something terrible, and we've seen the rise of fat-free diets, fat-free products, not necessarily thinking about all the good things fats do in our bodies. Fats are important for many reasons. First of all, our brains are mostly fat. That's what we have in our brain. They're made of fat. So if we don't, eat healthy fats, if we don't include healthy fats in our diet, it doesn't necessarily allow our brain to function properly and to get everything it needs. Our brains control everything in our body. So if our brains do not have good health, it affects everything in our body. Another thing where fats are important is the regulation of hormones. Hormones, they affect many things in our body, and it's particularly important for women's health. And there's another video about PMS and how to, reduce negative symptoms and better support women's health. And one of the things that is very important is healthy fats. Another thing is fat help regulate cholesterol in our body, the good and the bad, and it helps, improve and regulate our heart health. Now, it's very important that we realize that some fats are really bad, some fats are really good for us. And when we know that, we can make better choices and understand better what those fats do to us. Generally speaking, fats are into 4 categories, so they're split in 4 categories, and what differentiates them is their molecular structure. So those 4 types of fat are very different on a molecular level, and that helps us understand what they do in our bodies. So the first category, and the one we really want to avoid, is trans fats. Trans fats are the worst for us. Their molecular chain is often broken. It's not, the shape does not do well for us, and often how trans fats occur is through a process of hydrogenization. When you see, for example, on an ingredient list that it say hydrogenated oil, hydrogenated something, that's a red flag right there, because that means that what this product contains is trans fats, which are very bad for us. One of the things that trans fats do is that they release free radicals in our bodies. Now, free radicals, there's another talk about free radicals, another episode that goes deeply into what they are, how they're formed, what they do. But just to keep it simple, free radicals are one of the causes of cancer in our body. They, they don't do as well. So we want to avoid that much as possible to stay healthy and well. So by all means, avoid trans fats, and that's like deep fried food, fast food, all of those things have a lot of trans fat, and a lot of processed food have that, again, because of that the word I cannot say today, hydrogenation process. And so like chips, a lot of snacks too. Sometimes we don't even realize it's there, but when you check the list of ingredients, I bet it says hydrogenated something, right? So if you can, if there's one thing you take away from this episode, is to avoid trans fat as much as you can. And it's by keeping that away from us, it's already going to improve your health big time. And it's going to reduce the risk of, illnesses down the road, heart illnesses, and cancer, and many other things, are unfortunately often one of the elements that lead us to that is trans fats. All right, second category of fats is saturated fat. Saturated fats are quite stable in their structure, which means that they are not usually that sensitive to heat or to light, so it's a pretty stable structure, and we need those, and they're particularly useful when cooking, because that's when we add some heat, and we want to make sure that what we're eating is still healthy and doesn't contain many free radicals. Because one thing is, when the structure is ruptured, that's when free radicals are released, generally speaking, with the fats. So for example, butter is a good source of saturated fats. That's what our brains are mainly made of, saturated fat. And I know butter has gotten a bad reputation, but if it's healthy butter from, free-range pasteurized cow's milk or goat milk, it can be really, really good for you. And often, butter has a lot of vitamin E, which is also very important for the skin, for eye health, and many other things. So I highly recommend having some butter in your life. Plus, it's delicious. Come on. Because that's one more thing where fat is very important, is some vitamins are fat soluble. So they are not soluble in water, but in fat. So you need fat in order for your body to get that vitamin, to absorb it. And that's, for example, vitamin E and vitamin A. Both of them are super important for eye, for vision, for skin health, amongst many other things. So if you get a good quality butter, oftentimes they have those delicious vitamins and the fats you need to get your body to absorb it. So have some butter. I mean, again, it's all in moderation and in the balance, right? But indulge. Plus, when cooking, I like to use that too, because it's fairly stable, so it can resist a bit higher heat than any other way of cooking. Another great thing is coconut oil. This is coconut butter here, so this one has a bit more of a sweet taste, sweet kick to it. I use it a lot when cooking. The coconut butter has more of a neutral flavor, so that's perfect for cooking. Did I say cooking? This, I use it for baking. So the coconut butter is great for baking, I find, like the manna. And the coconut oil is great for cooking, so like for frying stuff on the pan, or even for like putting it in the oven. But one thing to be cognizant of is, because coconut oil has become such a buzz and it's become quite popular, people are more aware of its great qualities. I mean, it has a lot of awesome properties, antifungal, antibacterial, like it has a lot of amazing things. But again, because it's become so popular, you can really get crappy quality out there on the market. Some companies are making big bucks without caring what the quality of the product is. It's just, it sells, right? So one thing to know and to make sure that it's the best possible, the coconut oil, is first you want it to be raw if possible, extra virgin, and unpasteurized. Like the wording is sometimes a bit different depending on the brand, but all of those processes, if it's pasteurized, if it's not extra virgin, then it means it's been processed more, often using high heat. So I mean, again, the high heat kills some of the good vitamins, minerals, properties that is inside, right? And it breaks down the chains. So naturally, the saturated fat in there is stable, but when it's highly processed, it loses that. So that's one thing. I guess that's all I want to say about saturated fat. The third category is monounsaturated fats. Those are quite good for us too. And for example, that's what we have in olive oil. So those are a little bit less stable than saturated fat, their structure, their molecular structure. So we don't want to overheat them. And one thing that is you need to be cognizant of when buying, good oils like olive oil, is to make sure that they are in tainted, dark. Why can I not speak today? Glass bottle. So that way, like the glass bottle, first is okay. That's a little bit of a side note, but oftentimes when things are stored in plastic, especially fat, plastic has some component, the general, plastics we have on the market here, have some components that are fat soluble, so that get absorbed into fat. So when you store your food in plastic container, especially when it's warm food that you put into the plastic Tupperware, part of that plastic is getting transferred into the food. It doesn't mean the plastic is fully melting away. Just some plastic particles get into your food, and what happens? You end up eating it. Yay! And yeah, that does a lot of bad things to you. So if you can, use glass containers. So much better for you. It takes, some time to adjust. It's a bit heavier to carry if you have it in your lunchbox. It's a bit more of an investment to buy them, but in the long run, I promise it does a lot of great things to you. Anyhow, back to the olive oil. So again, the dark tinted glass is very important because that's what keeps light from getting in. And when light goes into oil, especially in the unsaturated and more the polyunsaturated, that's the next category, the fourth category of fats, those are very, very, very sensitive to light and heat. So that means that if they're exposed to light constantly, that breaks their molecular chain. What does it do? Releases free radicals, and that's not good for us. We want the good fats, so we want to have those good unsaturated fats, especially polyunsaturated fats in our diets. But if they're poorly stored, or if you use them poorly, then it's actually doing the opposite to you. It's doing you bad. Instead of getting you all the goodness, it's harming your body. So avoid heat, avoid light for those, and make sure that they're stored properly. Some ways to use polyunsaturated fat, we love using, for example, like safflower oil. That one has many great properties, and what we do is we just put it on a plate and then we dip some bread into it, or use it on salads. That way it's not exposed to light or heat for a long time, and it's delicious. And that's also a lot of the fish oils. So in the fish oil supplement, you get all those goodness, and what polyunsaturated fat are rich in is omega-3, which we really need and want to have. But again, if exposed to heat or light, those disappear and actually transform into something that is harmful to us. All right, that was it about fats. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it makes sense. Again, if there's one thing you can take away from it is avoid trans fat. Check the ingredient list. If it says, here we go, hydrogenated something, that's a red flag. Don't buy it, don't use it, don't give it to your kids. I hope that you'll have a wonderful week. I'll see you again next week, and in the meantime, eat well and be well and get those good fats in. Ciao!